All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, I have to admit, I've been pretty hard on Mr. Russell Westbrook over the course of his career, particularly due to the fact that, in my view, he has one of the lowest basketball IQs of any player I've ever seen with as much talent as he has. So, of course, you tend to be harder on people that you see the greatest potential in. But now I have to give him a lot of credit, because after the signing or the re-signing of Mr. Paul George, it seems that Russell Westbrook has finally come to understand that he's been way too much a part of their offense over the last few years, and he's starting to divest much more of the offensive load to Mr. Paul George. And I think that it is going to pay dividends for them down the line, especially if they're able to make a pretty decent trade to acquire some shooting, particularly in the front court. I think that Kevin Love will be perfect for them. I'm not quite sure if they're going to have all the assets to get that done, though. But we'll see. But once again, I do have to give some credit to Mr. Russell Westbrook, but that brings me to my next point. Is the fact that Russell Westbrook is divesting the overall control of the offensive portion of the team, the OKC Thunder, is that hurting him psychologically? Because his shooting percentages have dipped drastically, especially on the free throw line. So one has to wonder, I think that some people are just born aggressive. They're born with that quote-unquote alpha persona. And even in showing the generosity to give up a certain aspect or certain components of control, it's going to be hurtful to them internally. They're not going to show it externally so much. They're not going to talk about it, but it's going to hurt them internally. And I have to wonder if that is what is going on with Russell Westbrook. So anyway, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Let's talk about Paul George and the other side of this matchup, because he leads the Thunder in scoring, just under 25 points a game this season. Yesterday, before the game, Billy Donovan had his option picked up for next season. OKC, currently third in the West, so everything is going very well for the Thunder right now.
With the way that Paul George is playing on offense and how he customarily plays on defense, for him to average anywhere around 25 points per game, he's threatening to be considered one of the top 15 or top 10 players in the NBA, no doubt about it.
I want to know, Tracy, who you think is benefiting from Paul George's presence more right now. To Donovan, who just got his contract picked up. I just called Coach Donovan Tim Donovan, the longtime Heat public relations guy. Sorry to both of you. Sorry, Billy. And also, you can see it. Also, or Russell Westbrook, obviously, right?
I think that both are mutually benefiting from Paul George's presence. I think that Paul George's presence is forcing Russell Westbrook to finally grow up and mature. Hopefully this will cause an escalation in his basketball IQ. This game here is Exhibit A of how much he has matured, because we all know Russell Westbrook was like Kobe Bryant. If they were down by 1 point with 5 seconds or less to go, their opponents always knew that Russell Westbrook was going to take the shot no matter how bad the shot was. Finally, Russell has come to respect the fact that just because he might be the most talented player on the team does not mean that he should take the shot, especially if shooting is not his forte.
You know what? I'm going to go with Russ on this. And the reason I say that is because Russ played with KD for, 8 or 9 years.
Yep.
And for those 8 or 9 years, it's like people in the media and the players around was like, they can't figure it out. Who is the guy? Russ wants to be the guy. Russ wants to take the shot.
I won't quite say that. I think that people always knew that Kevin Durant was their best overall player, but Russell Westbrook was the alpha. He had the alpha personality. Kevin Durant never had the alpha personality, and it wore on him that he was the better player, but Russell Westbrook was viewed as the alpha, and Russell Westbrook had no real idea on how to utilize Kevin, how Kevin wanted to be utilized. I think that Kevin is more comfortable with Curry because Curry is so much more proficient. Plus, he respects the fact that Curry basically opened up his door for Kevin Durant to be welcomed in, and has helped in tutoring him on how to become a championship level player, which Russell Westbrook still is not.
Russ is being selfish. I think Russ has learned from that experience of playing with KD, and now
I agree.
He's kind of taking a backseat. He's sacrificing a little bit more to allow PG to be who he is, and it's working for these guys. And I love the way he's approaching the game. I love how if PG has it going, Russ is feeding him the ball. He's allowing him to take last-second shots. So I'm going to go with Russ is benefiting more. Tracy.
Once again, I have to go with both, because Billy Donovan, he was on his way out of OKC if it was not for Paul George. I truly believe that he was, especially with the way in which Kevin Durant was dogging him out on social media a couple of years ago.
Tracy, I agree with that, but I think the key for Donovan is this has solidified him as an NBA coach.
Absolutely.
On one of those top tiers. And there were still questions, even in the last couple of years, was he the guy? Was he the guy long-term for this group? We knew what Russ is because he's an MVP, and there's no question, to your point, he's learned what the last few years have taught him. But Donovan now is solidified in that league of coaches where you go, this guy can take a team maybe to the top. And that question was still lingering.
What OKC has that very few teams in the NBA have is a great defense. Like OKC, they can consistently hold teams around 100.
Still lingering, I think, for a lot of people. And Paul George's play has really kind of stabilized that whole group.
And fit, too, is always the thing that, right? Because maybe his personality a little bit, too. Russ has matured and changed. Because, I mean, you talk about young players when we talk about the Bulls. I mean, Russ and KD were young when they got together. He's evolved.
Yes, they were extremely precocious. People forget that when they went to the NBA Finals back in 2012, KD was like 23 and Russ was like 21 or 22.
Evolve, like we expect and hope everybody gets to. And then Paul George is a very different personality than Kevin Durant.
Right.
So it's sort of, it's not just the style of play or how responsibilities are changing, it's how those two guys mesh and kind of work together too. So I've liked seeing that a lot. And shout out to Billy, because I think that he's a good person to have in our league, and I like seeing his option getting picked up. Coming up.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. I just wanted to give a little bit of credit to Mr. Russell Westbrook because I have noticed that he is starting to mature in his overall game, and maybe a bit of the maturity is due to the fact that he is starting to realize that the clock is ticking on his career. If he's not 30 yet, he's about to turn 30. I'm pretty sure of that because KD just turned 30, and they're all around the same age. Russell Westbrook and Kevin Love and KD and Steph Curry, James Harden, they're all about 2 or 3 years apart at the most. So we'll see what goes on with Russell, but I think that he's finally starting to figure out that basketball is a team game. So good for him. Peace.